September 7th, and my name is Bill McCamley. I'm a state representative from Las Cruces and Mesilla here in New Mexico with your legislative update for the day. Up here in my office in Santa Fe, had a interim committee meeting in Silver City the last couple days and one up here today, and I want to talk to you about three different items. The first is regarding the Mesilla Bosque Park. So for those of us that live in Doña Ana County, we know that it's a park right over on the west side of the Rio Grande, right next to Mesilla, and it was created 10 or 15 years ago through a land donation by a local farmer, and it's been used for all these years basically for education. There's been a ton of students that go out there and learn all about how river ecosystems work in the desert. The problem we've got right now at a state level, though, is our budget. And for anybody who watches these on a regular basis, you know that tax revenue's gone really down, and so we've been looking at ways to try to use less money. Well, there was a proposal by the Game and Fish Department. Now, these guys do basically all the hunting and fishing throughout the state, and they have an office that they rent in Las Cruces. So what they proposed is they would move all of their offices from their rental into the state building at the Bosque Park. The state park service would let that go, and the Game and Fish Department would then run the building and the parks around it and use it as their offices. There's some issues there, though, right? So will education continue? Game and Fish, basically, they do all the hunting and fishing around the state. They don't do a lot of like biological education and things like that. And if that's going to happen, where are all these kids going to go to get their education? Number two, will Game and Fish change its mission and try to do some more education? And they said that they want to do this, but during the session, there was a bill to kind of expand the scope of what they did, and they didn't want to do it. So that's a big issue. Number three is this actually legal because the legislature appropriated money for a state park through the Park Service. So what kind of legal parameters they're working with where they just say, we're just going to do this without your okay on it, since we're the ones that appropriate the money. There's also statewide implications for this, and that being that if other parks around the state, so if you're not from Doña Ana County, you might have a park in a similar situation, can state agencies just willy-nilly change these without a lot of your input? And that's one of the other problems too, is there hasn't been a lot of public notice on this or input from the local community. The other thing that came up at that meeting was the Gila diversion. For those of you familiar with Grant County, the Gila River is one of the last mostly free-flowing rivers in the western United States, and there has been since I think 2004 a proposal to dam some of that river and take the water out for different uses. A lot of business and agricultural people really want to explore this. On the other hand, you have folks, and I'm one of these, who think that a free-flowing river to keep ecosystems going is really important. It has value because we don't have many of those left. And they got about a $90 million appropriation from the federal government a few years ago to do this. They've spent 11 on it and all these designs, and they still don't know what they're going to be doing. So can you spend the other $79 million that you've got on more useful things like water and wastewater systems that are already there, or more efficiency in the current system so that you have more water to give to the agricultural sector, that sort of thing. Today in Santa Fe, we had a meeting of the Investment and Pension Oversight Committee. And one of the things we talked about was active versus passive accounts. Now, this is not my specialty, so take it for what it's worth, but there are two ways that you can invest your money in the stock market. The one is active, where you pay a broker to go and invest it in different ways in which they think that they can make money for you. The other is called passive, where you just put it in these funds that they buy, like, for instance, the S&P 500. They'll buy all the stocks in the S&P 500 proportional to what you gave them. That's called an index fund, and it doesn't cost a lot of money because you just buy everything as it is. And as the S&P 500 goes up and down, you raise money or lose money that way. And there's a big discussion about, because most of the state funds in the big state permanent fund, for instance, are invested actively, like 75%. So can we actually save money by not paying all the stockbrokers in New York what we're paying them, just do these index funds and just getting all the money without paying the fees? So that's an interesting question. Some people would argue, okay, yeah, you pay these fees, but you get more money on the backside. Other people would argue, don't give away all these money to out-of-state people and make the money that you're going to make going up and down. You're going to make just as much anyway. And that's something we're going to be exploring over the next few weeks. Just want to close by saying I just attended a memorial service for a guy named Lucky Varela. He was a 30-year legislator who passed away recently, and he was a really good, smart guy who really cared about government and thought that government and government workers that worked hard and cared about the people could make their communities a better place. And he was a bulldog in terms of making sure that money got to the right places and that that money was spent efficiently and effectively. And it was really nice to see a great memorial for a guy who cared, like I do, that government can be a force for good in our society. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching this. As always, if you have questions, comments, or concerns on these or any other issues, I'd love to hear from you. And if I don't talk to you, have a great weekend. Bye.